Imagine finding yourself buried underground, unable to breathe or move. A terrifying and horrifying feeling, right? This is exactly what actually happened to young Sukan on October 16, 2022, around 1 p.m. Emergency police received a call from an Apple smartwatch. Welcome to the Midnight Hour, where silence hides the real stories. Today's story took place in Washington State in the United States of America. In a small and beautiful town in the suburbs of Washington called Lacey, a strange and terrifying story unfolded on Sunday, October 16, 2022, around 1 p.m. Emergency police received a call from a smartwatch, and the caller was a woman who couldn't speak, but it was very clear that she desperately needed help, and quickly. From the call, it was evident that the caller's voice was muffled and she couldn't do anything. She was pressing any button on the watch. There was a sound of breaking, then complete silence. Since she couldn't speak, they didn't know her address, but they were able to locate the call through the signal from the smartwatch. The police rushed immediately to the address indicated by the signal, a home in a beautiful area. Fortunately, the watch was still working and the line was open, so they could hear the sound of a car leaving the house. Then they heard the voices of police officers entering the home. When the police entered the house, they found no one, but they noticed the house was somewhat messed up. The front door was open and the garage door was wide open. Upon entering the garage, they found the smartwatch from which the emergency call was made lying on the ground. A short while after the police arrived, two children came to the house. Crystal, 20 years old, and her younger brother, 11 years old. They said they were the children of the homeowner, Young Sukan, a 42-year-old Korean woman. The police began talking to Crystal, who said that she, her brother, and their mother had gone to church that morning as usual on Sunday. When they returned home, they noticed their father's car parked in the driveway in front of the garage, which was somewhat normal even though their parents were in the process of divorce. Their father usually visited once a week. Crystal added that her mother asked her to take her little brother and leave the house for a bit so she could talk to their father privately. So Crystal left with her brother and they sat outside the house for about half an hour. Around 1 p.m., as they were returning to the house, Crystal received an emergency message on her phone from her mother's phone with a map to their home, an automatic message sent when calling emergency services. When she returned, she found neither her father's car nor her mother, and the police were standing in front of the house. Crystal allowed the police to search the house, and they found it turned upside down with broken items like Young's phone. But the most alarming thing was finding duct tape with strands of hair on it. At the moment, the police realized this wasn't the first time they had visited the house, as in August 2021, Young's husband, Chai Kyung-an, 52 years old, had been accused of assaulting her due to a marital dispute. Shortly after, they filed for divorce, and Chai left the house to Young and the children. Now, both had disappeared, and no one knew where they were. Had he kidnapped her, or were they both kidnapped? The police moved quickly. Investigators, patrol officers, and a search team scoured the area and neighborhood, collecting surveillance camera footage from streets and neighbors. In one clip from a neighbor's house, a man appeared parking his car in front of the garage, wearing a white shirt and dark shorts, opening the garage door, entering the car, then closing it. Shortly after, he drove out quickly. In another camera, the same car passed by a police car just minutes before it arrived. Other cameras captured the car on the road, and they estimated it was heading south. When Crystal watched the camera footage, she immediately recognized the man. It was her father, Chai. After everything they saw, they believed Chai had kidnapped Young. They issued a bulletin with their photos and distributed it to officers and social media, searching for Chai or his blue minivan, but no useful information came in. So what happened, and what drove him to kidnap her? Let's go back in time a little to understand the family's story. Here we enter Chai's mindset. His military intelligence background wasn't just a job, it shaped him in a sense of entitlement and control. For him, divorce wasn't a legal procedure, but a rebellion from his possessions that must be crushed. And what we see here is wounded narcissism deciding to erase the source of insult instead of facing failure. The relationship between Young Soo-kan and her husband was extremely troubled, as he would vent his anger on family members, especially his wife, and threatened to kill her more than once. So Young decided to leave him to protect her safety and her children's. But she never imagined his threats would become a terrifying reality. The Sunday, October 16th, began normally. Young went with her children to church as usual, then they returned home and found Chai inside. After greetings, Young asked her daughter Crystal to take her little brother and go out for a bit so she could discuss divorce and financial matters with Chai. Crystal left with her brother, and Young and Chai began discussing divorce issues. Perhaps the discussion heated up, so she asked him to leave the house because she could no longer continue. Chai didn't like the words, so he stayed seated and the argument intensified. Young went up to her bedroom, but Chai didn't leave her. He followed her upstairs, attacked her, and hit her more than once on the head. He threatened to kill her because he had no intention of giving her anything from his money after the divorce. Then he tied her hands and feet with duct tape, placed tape over her mouth and eyes so she can no longer see or speak. Chai took advantage of a short exit to put his car inside the garage. Young seized the opportunity and called emergency services via her smartwatch. Chai returned and dragged her from the bedroom downstairs, and the dragging and pulling sound heard in the call was from dragging her down the stairs. Chai noticed the smartwatch on her hand, suspected something, and didn't want to risk it, so he brought a hammer and smashed the watch while it was still on her hand until it detached from her. But he didn't know the watch continued working even after being broken and remained on the garage floor, allowing the police to arrive. Here lies the stunning dramatic irony: a struggle between primitive killing tools, hammer and tape, and modern technology. Chai, the intelligence expert trained to cover tracks, was defeated by digital watch pulses she left behind as the only threat of survival. Chai put Young in his car trunk and drove off quickly. At the moment he left, he passed right by the police car heading to the house. In the trunk, Young was tied up and tried to open the trunk but couldn't. Chai took her to a forested area, stopped the car, took her out, placed her on the ground, then brought a shovel and began digging. Young felt what he was doing and realized he would bury her alive. And that's what happened. He stabbed her in the chest with a long, thin knife, then threw her into the hole and placed a heavy piece of wood on top of her. Despite everything, Young remained alive, breathing with difficulty, and moved her head slightly to create space for breathing under the wood. Chai didn't notice that and continued covering her with dirt while repeating, "You're going to die now." The hole was very shallow, about 19 inches deep or roughly 50 centimeters. The weight of the wood and dirt paralyzed her movement, but she stayed alive for hours. She managed to free the tape from her hands and began digging to get out. After tremendous effort, she emerged, removed the dirt, and freed the tape from her eyes. What Young did in that hole is studied in psychology under the category of adrenaline direction. In a moment when the human mind collapses from terror, her maternal instinct and survival summoned superhuman strength to turn despair into action, defeating death and emerging from the grave with an exhausted body and a soul refusing to surrender. She thought Chai had left, but was shocked to see his car still nearby. She ran in panic. Meanwhile, her family and the police were searching for her in vain that day. Around 3 a.m. the next day, police received a call from someone living about 6 miles from the forest, saying he heard knocking and suspected someone had entered his house, then saw a ghost behind his cabin in the garden. Police arrived with flashlights and found someone sitting in the garden. From the bulletin, they identified her as Young Soo-kan. She was covered in dirt and blood, with duct tape still around her neck. When she realized they were police, she burst into tears and screamed hysterically, "My husband tried to kill me." She was immediately taken to the hospital. Fortunately, her injuries were not severe. The search for Chai continued, and around 7 a.m. the next morning, a report came in about a parked car near the forest. They found Chai sitting inside it, perhaps looking for Young, and shocked she wasn't in the hole. He was arrested and charges were filed against him for first-degree attempted murder, threat to kill, kidnapping, and assault. He claimed innocence on most charges except the beating, but all evidence was against him. In the first preliminary hearing, October 19, 2022, her lawyer read her statement. "Do not release him on bail. I fear for my life. He wants to kill me again." The judge denied bail and imposed a no-contact order. Chai's lawyer claimed mitigation due to his military service and post-traumatic stress disorder, but the court did not take it lightly. Before sentencing, Young said her life and her children's lives had collapsed. She would always remember the painful memories, and she requested the maximum penalty. Chai finally pled guilty. On April 22, 2024, he was sentenced to 13 years in prison. He will be about 67 years old upon release. The court balanced the premeditated intent to kill with the defendant's guilty plea. Despite the defense's attempt to use military service to mitigate, the aggravating circumstance of burying the victim alive outweighed all excuses, ensuring Chai's danger was kept away from his family for many years. In conclusion to Young Soo-Kwan's story, who emerged from her grave to confront her killer, as a viewer, have you come to trust technology and tracking tools as a means of protection after this story, or do you still fear privacy invasion? If you were in the judge's place, would you have taken the perpetrator's, Chai's, military history into account and considered it as a mitigating excuse? Or does the brutality of the crime cancel any prior history? Share your opinions in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more thrilling stories.